Welcome to our August webinar. Good to have everyone join us. Appreciate your time. I know it's probably coming up right to the busy part of the year where everyone's bracing themselves for all the fun and games leading into the end of the year. So I appreciate you joining. Today's webinar, we're focusing on managing pickup and delivery issues through the system. So I'll take you through the mobile app side of things, how your drivers can report them to you. And then we'll also focus on some configuration and some views and some features available to help you build your own process in the system, not only to report on them, but also to make it easy to action and catch these things out early. So as soon as your driver reports it, let you guys see it through the system and decide how you need to action it. So we'll touch on a few different configuration options. We do have a Q&A section in the chat. Feel free to pop in questions. Depending on how we're going, I may not always get to those questions, but we definitely will reply back to you directly with anything you pop in the chat there. So feel free to drop it in there. And if we don't cover it during the webinar, we'll definitely get back to you. We also do send out a summary email to anyone who's registered. We upload these webinars to YouTube as well. So if you feel like something's been missed, don't stress, we will upload it and you can access all our old webinars on YouTube as well. But as I said, if you're viewing this or you know anyone that's registered, they will receive an email with the recording as well to make things nice and easy. So just quickly coming through a quick overview of today. As I mentioned, we're going to talk through the mobile app, so how your drivers can actually report delivery and pickup issues to you. That's done through the Transvirtual mobile app. We then will talk about some configurations that can be done in the system. And so this is ways where you can control what's visible to your drivers when they're selecting it. I'll also show you how you can force some photos to be taken or force events through the system as well, depending on the type of pickup issue that's being recorded. We call them mobile driver alerts. We'll touch on that. And then we'll also talk about a function called the futile pickup review screen. I'll also be running through how you can review your delivery issues utilizing your consignment search screen there just to easily filter. And we'll run through how you can create some of those filters. And just build a nice, easy platform for you to catch out anything that you may need to look at. Lastly, we'll touch on our EDI export functionality. So a lot of people already will be using things like the automated emails that go out to senders of freight with shipping labels. You might be sending out tracking notifications too. I'll just show you how you can leverage this to set up automatic emails when you've got certain statuses for pickups or deliveries. And we'll leverage that looking at firstly whether you want to do that internally. So maybe just set up an internal customer service email that needs to get flagged. Or also if you want to get real creative, we'll talk about how you might be able to send that to the relevant person when there's a pickup issue, letting them know that to the sender, hey, we weren't able to pick up your freight, please contact us. So we'll run through all that. Just quickly, brief reminder, our new iOS app is available for all Apple users. So that includes new features previously available only in Android, but now Apple users have access to our route optimization tool. We have access to chain of responsibility forms and also equipment transactions through the platform. So keep an eye in the App Store for the new Transvirtual logo. You can see there on the right-hand side. Anyone using an Android today, in the month of September, you will have access to download this version of the app as well from the Google Play Store. Just keep an eye out. We'll be shouting that from the hills when it's available. It obviously, as we go through today, I'll be sharing that app. You'll see it's quite a change in terms of the layout and also how it appears to your drivers. We will give you time to do that cutover period, but I do recommend looking at that as soon as that's available. Start to make some plans on how you can transition. Personally, I feel that this new app is a lot more intuitive. It's a lot easier for new drivers or new users to pick it up and understand what they need to do. And you'll probably see that as we go through today. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. We're not going to suddenly cut it over and force everyone to use it, but it would be good as soon as it's available for you to start considering how you can get your team transferred over to the new app just to make their life easier and make sure that the data is as nice and clean as possible in your system because your drivers know exactly where to go when they're recording information. So just stopping there, what we're going to do is go and I'm going to share my mobile screen with you and we're going to quickly run through what's experienced from a driver's side of things when using the app and how they can actually report those pickup or delivery issues through the app itself. So just quickly, you should see my mobile screen now here. We're in the new layout of the app. So Apple users, this is probably something that's quite familiar to you. For Android users, this will look vaguely familiar. You'll notice you've got your 4 key buttons there. So load, deliver, scan, and search. For our drivers, nice and easy here. Typically, if they're loading a vehicle, they'll be going through the load screen here. They've got a nice easy way to type in barcodes. They can scan barcode labels as well. Obviously, if you're using a scanning device, not a personal mobile device, you'll be able to just trigger scans from this screen as well as usual. But nice and easy having that little button there. And the same thing applies for your deliver screen there. So nice and easy. For any Android users, there's that little trick of having to press the volume down button on an Android phone to trigger your scans. No more of that. We've got a nice clear button for everyone to use, or they can type in the barcode label there or the consignment number nice and simply. So again, sorry for anyone on iPhone who already knows this and it's all making sense and I'm telling you something new, but for Android users, just quickly, when you're using the new app, to determine the difference between a pickup and a delivery, a pickup will be notified by this little box icon here, so a package that needs to be collected, and then a delivery will be symbolized by this truck here. And you can see I've just got a few jobs going to the same addresses or being picked up from the same address, so the mobile app's doing what we expect it to do and just lumping them all together for me. So what we're going to look at now is just quickly how a driver might record a pickup issue when they're completing a pickup. So I come in and what I might be doing is let's look at this one individual job here. I'm going to select the icon and from this screen here, I'll see all the details relating to this job here. So you can see I've got the basic information. I've got things like the phone number against the address so I know if I can try and call them for whatever reason. You can see down the bottom here, I've got the ability to look at my weights, my items. If I do need to adjust this, so maybe I'm doing a pickup and they've actually sent me something that's, 250 kilos, not 150, I can adjust that from here as well. So some nice little tweaks. I've got the option to take any photos and imagery against that. When we talk about traveling to the site, I can view that from the map. I can see where I need to go. If I click that directions button, that'll open up my Google Maps or my native map, so I can just navigate to that site. And then, of course, if we do item level scanning, which we always recommend, we can actually scan that freight and mark it as picked up as well. The beauty of this is obviously as you scan, it will tell you scan 1 of 3 items, 2 of 3 items, 3 of 3 items. You know that's complete. So a nice check for your driver, making sure nothing gets missed. So just coming back, we're not talking about successful pickups here. We've got an issue. You can see down the bottom of my screen, I could choose to open up the signature page here. I can do any of my additional services, photos, and get my signature. However, if I go back, I've actually got an issue. I couldn't actually collect the freight here. And from this, what I'll be able to do is actually identify the type of issue I have. So it could be that I need a booking to actually enter the site. Maybe no one's home and I've left an address letting them know we need to come back. It could be a wrong address. It could be closed. We've got plenty of options here. I just want to quickly call out, within this list, there are 2 options that would technically not be flagged as a delivery issue. That's this complete option here you see in the middle. That's actually just another way for you to flag a delivery as completed. Just a little fail-safe for whatever reason, someone couldn't get to the signature screen. They couldn't find it. They can mark it as complete from here. The other thing we have, which is rare, but it is possible, you could have something's been signed for on paper. That's pretty unlikely these days. Mostly if someone's there, they're happy to sign on glass for that. But for whatever reason that your driver was given a paper document, paper POD or PUD, sorry, they can select that. And what the system's going to do is when they sign this, it's actually going to mark that pickup as complete in the system. And you'll be expecting that freight to be coming back with the driver. All these other options are essentially going to say, hey, we couldn't pick up the freight. The driver's going to come back empty-handed and we need to do something about that. So from here, I can pick my option. For example, I might just say check address. I can add a comment. That could be something like it was an empty building site. There was nothing there. It was a construction site. There could be no parking. We can pick any of these options. We always recommend your driver add a little detail just because obviously it's going to help your customer service team at the end of the day. I might say all no stopping. And I complete that. Now, as a driver, what happens is I've actually completed that from my side. So even though we haven't been able to pick it up, as the driver, I'm done. I don't need to see this anymore. It's marked as complete as from my perspective. When we go back through the system, we'll see that the system still treats it as needing to be actioned. The pickup's not complete. But as a driver, I need to move on with my day. I don't need to see this and be confused. Now we're going to go down quickly to the delivery issues. Same thing I can do. I can select that exact same features we mentioned before, but instead of pickup issue, I can select delivery issue. And again, what I can do is look at all these options and see. Now we mentioned before, there's those two options, complete and also signed on paper. They will treat that as if that's been delivered. Everything else we see here is essentially going to say that's going to come back. Now there's one other thing I need to mention, and that is left as instructed, which you can see here. So this option is when you have a consignment that's been marked as able to leave. Your driver can select this and say left as instructed, and they will basically say that's on the doorstep. We're marking that as delivered as well. So that's the extra option available to mark something as complete here. Now what we do in this is, and I'll run you through this configuration, but effectively what can set the system up is to say that for certain delivery issues or certain scenarios, we need to trigger a photo or force the driver to take a photo. So in the event where I've left something as instructed, if I go and complete that delivery, I've actually configured my system to say force the driver to take a photo. And as the driver, I can take a photo of that. I can ignore my coffee cup there. We're delivering a coffee. I save that. I can mark that delivery as complete. I haven't collected a signature. There's no one there, but that's okay because we're able to leave. Now, as I mark that, that's all complete. That's gone back. We can move on with our day. We're ready to roll. And back internally or for our customers through the portal, they can see not only that it's been left as instructed, however, we also got that photo. So we've actually just made it really simple for the drivers to follow process. And I'll take you through that. And for any of those delivery issues, you can determine whether a photo is needed for those scenarios. Just take the thought process out for your drivers, make their life really easy. Perfect. So from a driver perspective, that's essentially all they need to do. We don't want to complicate it for them. We want to keep it simple. They just need to work off this list, clear it off, and then they can essentially go about their day and continue on scanning, continuing everything. Now I'm going to jump through to the web portal now. We're going to start to touch on some of those configurations I was mentioning. I'll show you how you can configure the force photo, how we can decide what delivery types are visible to drivers, really how you can start to configure this. Just as I'm pulling up my machine, just a reminder, always think about your process here. So in terms of configuring Transvirtual, you always want to think about how you guys do things first. Think about your process and then determine how Transvirtual might align to that process and how you can use Transvirtual to line up with how you need things to work. It's a tool. It's there to assist you. It's not there to dictate how you do things in a way. So it's always important for you guys to think about what you need to do and then use Transvirtual accordingly. So on that note, the first thing we're going to look at is just these couple of configurations we can do relating to these pickup and delivery issues. So from here, as a system administrator, I'm going to jump into my configuration tab and I'm going to come down to my global setup. So from here, I'm going to select my general settings, and what I do is scroll down. And a quick tip for anyone who wants to quickly search through screen, there's lots there. If you're ever trying to find a particular setting or a particular word, press Control F in your browser, or I think it's Command F if you use a Mac, and then you can actually search for those words. So what I'm going to look for is delivery types, and you can see here, perfect. Now this is actually just at the bottom of the delivery section here, so not too far from the top of the page, but again, you can just search really quickly for that. Using these two fields here, I can actually determine which pickup and delivery types I want to have visible to my drivers. So by default, everything's going to be visible, but I can then go through and say, well, which ones can they select from that list of delivery issues and pickup issues? Now, if you are someone who just has their own customers booking in freight through the system and record it, this can be helpful. Just want to flag, if you are someone who receives jobs from other transport businesses, or you might be receiving jobs from a job board and there's an integration at play, I'd recommend not adjusting this because there are specific statuses that are synced between systems. So if you are doing work for someone like DHL, for example, they may not want you to change this because there could be very specific tags that trigger sends of information. So if you're not sure, you're doing agent work, probably best to leave this alone. If you are just working for yourselves, typically less of an impact, and you can start to look at trimming these down for your drivers. But just a thought, and if you're in doubt, just ask support as well. Never hurts to ask them something like this and say, look, we're considering hiding these. Can you tell me if we're actually sending any information to other systems? We'll happily help you out and just give you an idea of whether that could affect something, a send of data to your external providers. So to make things simple, I'm going to leave mine. I don't want to do it. But what I might do is just look at a simple thing like signed on paper. I might say, no, that's silly. I don't want any of my pickups to be signed on paper. I'm going to force sign on glass or nothing. So I can select everyone but that one. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but what I would do is go through and select all of those different options except for signed on paper. And then for my driver, when they're going to see those options from the mobile app, they won't see that signed on paper option. So I'm just going to click save there. Nice and simple. Now, the other thing we can do as well is within the system, we've got a screen that can be enabled, which looks at futile pickups. Essentially, whenever a pickup's unable to be completed, we can set up a review process. So by default, if I don't have this screen enabled, what will happen is if my driver flags a pickup issue, the system will reassign the status of that consignment back to the initial one being pickup acknowledged. From my allocation controller's viewpoint, they will see that that's unassigned and needing to be actioned. They can go in, make the necessary adjustments to the consignment, and then allocate it out. Or if we use our futile pickups review, which can be found under consignment related rules, again, using that nice little trick here, I'm going to search futile. I can turn on my futile pickups review. What this is going to do is actually create a little triage for me. And whenever a consignment that's marked as a pickup requirement has an issue, what I actually have is it will go into my futile pickups review, which can be found under administration just at the bottom here. So if you have recently turned this on, please note that first of all, it might just take a little bit of time for this to appear in your list. So maybe sign out of the platform and sign back in again. What I also need to flag is any historical consignments that have been flagged with pickup issues won't appear on this list. You need to enable it, and then any new jobs that have been updated since this has been enabled will appear in this list. So just something to keep in the back of your mind that once you turn this on, it's not going to show you historical ones. You might need to dig through and look for them. It's just moving forward that we can track these. So having looked through my futile pickup list though, I can see any jobs that have been flagged as futile. I can go through, select each one. I can see any details. If my driver's left any notes, they'll be visible from here. We can also view any system notes as well. And then down below, we've got some options available to us for actions. So depending on how I treat my futile pickups, I might want to create a consignment that actually goes and charges the customer. So if I select this on and then click update, what will happen is we'll create a new consignment against that customer account. It will be flagged as a futile pickup. And what I can do is build into my rate card my charges for futile pickups. What I might do in this case is if I was just going to remove it so they no longer need it, I'm creating a charge. So I'm still going to charge them for that futile pickup, but I can then remove the consignment completely and that's gone. They decided they didn't need it, but they wasted our time in making us go and do the pickup. So we're going to charge them for that using that consignment rule. What I can also do is decide if I need to rebook that today. And what that will do is actually reallocate that straight back to my driver who's on the road. They'll see that from their mobile app, get a nice little push notification, and they can roll through and go and try that pickup again. We also then can rebook for tomorrow. And what this will do is actually send that to my allocation controller. So it won't allocate to the driver. What it will do is pop it in, and they might not be working tomorrow. So what we can do is pop it back into the allocation controller, and my controller can then decide who they allocate that to based on their usual criteria. We've mentioned, deleting the consignment or clearing the pickup. We also can then just clear the pickup and retain the price. So this is the event where perhaps someone's called and said, oh, apologies, that wasn't actually a pickup requirement. I'm going to drop that off at your depot. That'll turn up soon. So we want to leave that in the system. We might just leave that there and we can clear the pickup requirement. We know we don't need to action anything and we're expecting that to turn up into the depot a bit later. So for our customer service team, our operations team, this is a great little dashboard just to help us decide what we need to do. And very similar to the way your allocation controller works for pickups, what we want to do is just work on a list and clear this off as we go. So ultimately, as I'm doing my job and making decisions on each of these, I can go and rebook that for today. I don't need to charge them. They're a good customer. I can move to the next one. I'm going to charge them and I'm actually going to remove that consignment completely, and that's going to create a new one, and I can continue to roll through. Just quickly as well, If I do need to check out any further details, I can quickly view the consignment just by clicking that link there. I can see all the details, all the history against that job as well, and any tracking details. So nice and easy way just to review all of those and keep it in the one spot. But as I said before, what your team would like to be doing is just clearing this list out and having a blank slate as they go through. So we've just addressed all of our pickup issues. The other side of the coin, we need to talk about how we can review or catch out those deliveries that are coming back that have failed. And what we can do is leverage the consignment filter screen here to catch out those consignments that we may need to be concerned about. Now, for anyone who's a little bit handy with the system already, you'll know you can do some quick filtering here. So I might want to look at anything that's mentioning in my depot. For anyone that's not sure, what you can do is search for certain criteria in these little fields and it'll pull through. This percentage symbol is just a wildcard. So I'm basically looking for any bit of text that's got depot in it. And you can see here as I pull through, I've got a few different things. So I've got some consignments that are just in depot and they're not flagged as any issue. But what I do have is some jobs that are returning to my depot. And you can see here, we've got the check address field coming up. Now, just to quickly talk you through how these statuses work, when a driver is flagging a delivery issue through the app, that app status will change to returning depot, and then also include the particular issue they flagged. So check address, it could be futile pickup, delivery card left. All those things will come through. What also happens though is if our team are doing depot in scans back at the depot, for any jobs that have been flagged with a delivery issue, say for example this job here 17419, when I scan that as depot in, what that will actually change to is in depot and still retain that check address issue. So that's really helpful for me to actually identify that as a consignment that's come back into the depot but is a delivery issue, and I need to treat that differently. So if your driver is recording the issues through the app and then your team are doing depot in scans, you get this nice simple workflow coming back. The alternative, for whatever reason, if your team aren't doing depot in scans, not going to hold it against you, even though we really strongly recommend it, you can still rely on that returning depot status to make sure you can check for any consignments that need to be looked at, and you can review those delivery issues. So while I might want to type in my statuses, I also have the scenario where I might have multiple statuses here. So I might want to look for check address, card left, but I don't need to see all these other in-depot statuses. And that's where building inbuilt save filters can help me. And you can see here, I've got a few saved ones here, and I'll take you through shortly how you can set these up. But essentially from here, I can look at any deliveries that are returning back to my depot that I need to look at. And I can review these. So for my check address, I might be saying, okay, as a customer service rep, I'm going to go call that receiver of the freight, say, hey, I might go back to the customer, the sender, just make sure I can communicate. For the depot, the card left, we might be waiting for a call back. So that goes into a little bit of a holding pattern. For no parking, we might need to, again, contact the sender or the receiver of freight. And you can see here, all we're doing is building a list of things we need to worry about. And I can do the exact same thing for things that are sitting in my depot as well. So things that are waiting for a booking, for example. So my driver's gone to site, they flagged that they can't turn up without a booking. They've gone back. When it sits in my depot, my team know that we need to go and make a booking. When I have called the person or the site and said, look, we've got that booking confirmed, I can add that, save that, and then I can get my driver to load that back onto the vehicle and send that out with them as well. So again, just a little list for you to work off to make sure you're identifying anything that needs attention and then can be sent out. So to build these filters, what we can utilize is just this little filter screen here. And just to show you the finished result, you get a nice, nasty little query here. I'll show you how you can easily build those. So we're going to start from scratch here. So I'm going to click on my filter screen and I'm going to look for things returning to my depot, if I could spell. So what we're going to do is search for consignment status, which is available here. I'm going to click next. In the type of logic I want to use, I'm going to say in list. So basically I'm going to say I want multiple items to trigger this. And the next thing I can do is I can start to select these individually, or I can go and type them in. And what I do, if I do returning depot, you can see I've got all these different options. Now, quick tip, if you want to do this multiple times, you can just copy and paste returning, hit enter, and then go and add these in as you need. So I'm going to do this really quickly. And once I've added in any status of returning depot, I'm just going to do a quick review to make sure there's nothing I actually don't need in there. For this, nice and easy, that's all good. I'm happy with that. When it comes time to looking at things like your in depot, you do just want to be careful because there are multiple in depot statuses that you may need to be wary of. And I'll quickly show you that as I remove these. So let's pretend they're in my depot with issues. And you can see here we've got in depot. So if I search in depot and do a hyphen, I can see all of these. What we just want to check is there's nothing that we don't want to include here again. So typically in depot will be okay. We can just go and add those. And essentially what that will do is create that nice ugly filter we saw before with all of these, but it's a nice, easy user interface. Quick tip when you are creating these filters, first of all, just have a think about what you know is in there. So if you know that you've got 1 or 2 consignments in the system, for example, that are in depot booking required, clicking this validate will just tell you how many jobs it's found matching the filter you've set up. So it's told me it's found 2. What it's doing is looking through my entire history of my consignments. In this screen here, I'm looking at a set date range. So I've got a date range of 1st of January to the 29th of August. So that other consignment that's matching that filter criteria probably sits beyond that date as well. So that validate just helps you make sure you're catching things out and just have a think about what you actually were looking for and how many you would expect. If you're doing some testing, never hurts to create a couple of test consignments and you can manually update the statuses just from the admin tab here. You could create that status and then check your filters to make it nice and easy for you to search through. Now, just coming back on those as well, for anyone who's an administrator and wants to set this up for your team, typically these are set per user, but what you can do is create a shared query, which is then accessible across your business. So anyone who's logging into your system has access to these shared queries. So what you can do is just click that and save it. Click validate, that'll save it. And what this now means is basically anyone who logs into the system under my organization will see that delivery issue returning filter and can easily use it. So any administrators there, IT people, have a think about the filters you want to set up across multiple screens. Make sure you set them as save queries and then tell your team about it. Let them know how they can use it and really easily control the information that they see, helping them flag what's actionable without them having to dig through information. So just make their lives really easy and ultimately create some efficiency within your teams. Perfect. So now we've gone through those filters, a really similar transition. We're just going to look at the EDI export rules and how we might be able to trigger some emails going to certain people for certain statuses as well. So I'm going to come across into my import export tab here. Again, you do need to be an administrator in your system to be able to do this. But what we're going to look at is our consignment export for status updates. So you've got 2 options here for consignments. That's consignments typically when they're created. And then status updates looks for statuses to be met, so certain criteria to be met. And I've already created one here in a little draft stage, but I'll just talk you through how we've set that up. So I've gone and set up a new rule. The export framework is an email. So what I want to do is trigger an email. And in this situation, what might be handy is I might actually want to trigger this email for to go to the receiver's email address to make sure that not only did we send them a card, but we're also going to inform them that we've left a card and they need to contact us because we tried to do a delivery. So attack from both angles. It's a nice little automation we can set up so that one, if people have lost that card or it's blown away, we can make sure that they're also getting that email and we're covering our bases. So to set this up, in terms of my trigger period, I want this to run every 2 minutes. What I want it to do is basically check for any new consignments where the status has recently updated to left card and then send that email to that person. We spoke about we can limit exports as well. In this scenario, it wouldn't make sense because what we're doing is once it changes its status once, there could be another time where it actually sets the left card and we want to send that email again. So most of the time for this, you don't want to set it to only trigger once because realistically, there could be times where the same status gets triggered and you need to send that email again. Just coming down below, my export framework is my email. I'm going to click on my settings here. And really simply, I can determine who that's going to. So in this event, we've got a failed delivery and we've had to leave a card asking for a redelivery. We're going to send it to the receiver email. I might also want to send it to the person who created the consignment. So it could be my customer needs to be informed as well. Or we can go to the customer contact as well. So they might have a customer service. So they're sending it somewhere, but we need to let their customer service team know as well. We could send it to them at the same time. Then we can also then just hard code an email. So in the event when we're talking about triggering emails for a wide variety of pickup or delivery issues, we might set our own internal customer service email here. And what this lets us do is trigger an email to be sent to the customer service team whenever one of our drivers has flagged a delivery or a pickup issue. So in terms of internal reporting, if you just want to keep things internal, let your team chase down those people. Setting up that internal email address is nice and easy, and you can just configure that there. From there, we set our email subject. When we talk about triggering EDI exports with emails, we always recommend including the consignment number as part of that. To use that, the tag to use is you do @model.consignment number. And what that will do is reference the individual consignment number. It ensures that that triggers for every consignment so that even if we had 5 jobs within the space of a couple of minutes that were set to card left, the system having that individual consignment tag reference will send 5 individual emails out. So just a nice point of checking to make sure it's going to go out all reliably. And then we can also adjust our email body as well. And if you're sending something to the consignment receiver, you might want to add some extra tags as well. So that could be things like your sender name, your receiver name. It could be a tracking link. It could be also perhaps a consignment number again, just flagging that again so they understand. You might also say who it's come from. So it could be from the sender name as well. If you need to look those up, they're available in our help desk. You can search them, but simply what you can do is if you need to check, if we go @model. For example, consignment number, you can click this validate here. And what it will do is if that goes through successfully, it'll give you a little preview with some test data as well. If I type something wrong, if I go consignment tracking URL, all in caps, what I'm trying to do is send a tracking link here. If I validate and I get this nasty error message, I know that's not going to work. That's the wrong thing. And instead what I do is just a little tweak, a little bit finicky, but I'm going to go and now I can get my tracking link appearing there. So that's just how you can easily validate it. Again, when we send around the recording, we'll include some common ones you can reference in there, things like your sender name, and you'll start to see the format and it'll be really easy for you to start to utilize that moving forwards. So from there, I then say, what export file am I sending? Now, for something like this, where we're sending a card, we're just letting them know that we had a card left. We probably don't need to send any files, so I'm going to leave that as none. Really, I just want them to make sure that they know they need to contact my office. And back here, I might say, hi, we tried to deliver a package. Please call our team on 040000. And that way we've got a contact number there. They know that they can go and actually call our team and rearrange delivery. So we want to put that message there rather than attaching anything and confusing them. So now I've set that to none. I'm not going to attach anything. It's just pure email. I have the option to enable that export. Before we do that, I'm just going to click update, save these settings up the top. And down below, we just want to look at our data filter. So when does this need to trigger? And you can see here, I've already added in the consignment status name when it's mobile card left. I might want to add other fields too. I also may need to trigger this for certain things. Maybe it's specific customers that it needs to trigger for as well. So we can go status name. We can select additional ones as well. And what I might say is we might want to let them know when it was unsafe to leave as well. And you can see here the system's updated. So now it's going to say, okay, when it's unsafe to leave or when we've left a card, we want to send that email to them. I'm going to update that. Now, if you need the text to vary, depending on these, you'd essentially need to set up a different rule and create that and have a different email template. But what you might just want to do is have a generic email that says, we were unable to complete a delivery. Please contact our office to arrange a suitable time for us to attempt delivery again. That'll make sure that whenever your drivers set that delivery issue up from the mobile app, not only does that appear in your consignment screen, your customer service team or the receiver also receive that email, and we all know there's something needing to be actioned. So really easily, we can empower our customer service team. We're automating a lot of the work behind the scenes. Our drivers are doing God's work, reporting that straight away from the mobile app. It's instantly triggering a send of data and relevant information for our customer service team to get on the phone and ultimately make life a lot easier. So that's a really simple thing to set up. You can play around with it. I would recommend, if you are looking at testing that, maybe to start internally. So just set up an internal email address against that first, run it through its paces. If you are utilizing a support package, if you're on our signature package or our premium package, that allows you to get assistance from our team with these configurations. What we can do is give you some guidance there. So if you are looking to set that up, reach out to our support team. We can give you a hand. I'll also just share a recap of this webinar and we can go through it. Also include some of those key tags you can include as part of that email send out that goes to this list too. So from our pickup and delivery issue reporting perspective, that's essentially where we've come to now. So our drivers are now reporting those through the app, nice and simply. It then triggers a send of information, update of a status that we can then look for in the system. For pickups, we can action those pickups via our futile pickup screen if we need to, and we can also just check on delivery issues. When we've got those EDI rules set up, we can also trigger a send to our customer service team, or even if we're happy to and we trust our drivers are recording accurate information, we can even just automate that email send to either the receiver, the customer, or both, as well as even our customer service team. So everyone's in the loop and we're creating action points for people to contact us. We're minimizing the amount of calls our customer service team need to make. So hopefully for everyone attending, we've joined. Everyone who's joined has learned a bit. Do reach out if you have any questions. In terms of getting in touch with us, just to recap, hopefully everyone knows this, but if you have any support questions, please email support@transvirtual.com. As most of you are probably aware on the call, we have had some changes to the support team in terms of how you contact us. Email support is always preferred, so anyone on a free support plan, you email through your questions, we give you assistance. For anyone that would like us to do configurations on their behalf, you can opt in for a support package. Our support plans are available via our page. If you go to our privacy policy or down the bottom of the screen, you'll see our support policy. That'll explain it all. We'll also share that as well. Or you can just reach out to support@transvirtual.com, inquiring about a support package. They can get in touch with you and give some information. If you just want to have a chat about your Transvirtual account, you want to have a high-level discussion about how you're using it, please feel free to reach out to me, will.barclay@transvirtual.com. Happy to have a discussion around how you're using it today. We do undertake health checks where essentially I have a chat with you about how you're using Transvirtual, where there's possible gaps, where there's possible improvements, and we discuss how you might be able to close that gap or what else you might want to do with this platform and how we can get you there. More than happy to lock in some timing and run through that with you. And then ultimately, sometimes it's really easy to understand what the dream scenario is. We can start to build little steps in between and those little goals to get you there. So that's great. A few of our customers have taken up that recently. It's been great to see them pick up more and more of the platform and get more out of it. As with anything, you can always squeeze a little bit more juice out of something. So to make sure you're maximizing the return on the investment of Transvirtual, do reach out and have a chat with me. Could be a couple of small things that save you time. Maybe it just saves a little bit of efficiency. Ultimately, if you've got happy workers, they're able to focus less on the administrative side and more on the improvement. You guys can get your efficiency for your business.